Hello, girlfriends. It's me. My name is Timothy Morigeau. No, I'm not Jay Leno or Kathy Griffin, considering most of my audience here is gay. I thought that would resonate more. And, I was talking to Queen Anne before I came onto the show today, and I was thinking, at first I was thinking maybe we'll just have a laugh button, and maybe that would work better, but no, I'm just kidding. I'm funny. Don't worry. I want to make you laugh, one way or another. So I actually, I've been going through a lot of realizations lately, and I finally realized something. I figured out why I've been so moody lately. I'm pregnant. That's so duh, right? So a little bit about me. I'm gay, obviously, if you didn't figure that out already. And if you didn't, I'm sure your grandmother knew already, too. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Being gay, there's so many things I could talk about myself. So I could start with the whole gay topic. If you don't know, I mean, a lot of gay guys, they talk on like different apps and they talk online. And there's this thing called Grindr. I don't know if you've heard about it. I mean, I know the name might sound a little funky, but it's a little friendly app, So recently, I actually met up with a guy, and one of the things I worry about all the time is, oh my gosh, at first I was worried that I might be a little too good for him, which is never a good sign, because so I end up going all the way to Oakland. We end up hanging out. And I was thinking, maybe this guy, maybe he'll be good enough for me. But what ended up happening, so we're talking, we hang out in his car, and nothing happened, don't worry, which is actually kind of the disappointing part. But turns out this guy is a firefighter. He's like built, he has a master's degree, he has his bachelor's degree, he owns his house, he's buying another house, he owns the house right next to him. And I find myself, I'm like, oh crap, I'm starting to feel a little bit inadequate, but I start, just out of reaction, I start giving him my qualifications. I'm like, yeah, well, I just graduated from college, and yeah, I'm from comedy, and yeah, I have a video game project I'm working on, and I'm like, you know what, it'd be so much easier if I just gave him my resume or something like that. I think that's the future of gay dating. You just give each other your LinkedIn accounts, maybe you'll connect some way or another. I don't know. But yeah, that's one part of me. And another part of me is I actually work right now. Yes. I work at this place called Tivana. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of that, but it's in Valley Fair in the San Jose area. And the great thing about that, the other day I was driving to work, and there was this sign on the side of the road. And I noticed it, and of course it catches my eye, because it says, college hunks hauling junk. So being that I'm gay, of course I can't avoid things like that. I'm like, wait, what is this? College hunks? Okay, never mind the holly junk part. So, so I look at the website and I start to log on after I pull over, of course, not really. And then I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, where are the hunks? I'm looking for the hunks. So finally I find a picture. I'm like, oh dang, these guys really are hot. But unfortunate for me, I'm kind of a minimalist, so I don't have a lot of stuff, and the only junk that I have is in my own trunk, so I don't think they're going to be hauling that anytime soon. So yeah, so I work at a place called Tivana, and the really crazy thing, if you haven't been there already, and I know I'm doing a little promoting for them unintentionally, so they have the tea names that are crazy. Like they have this thing called like Jasmine, Dragon, Phoenix Pearls, and when I want to mess with customers, sometimes I'll call it like Jasmine, Dragon, Unicorn, Cyclops, Centaur, Phoenix Pearls, and customers look at me crazy and like, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that right now. And then, this other thing, actually I was in Montana. I'm actually from Montana. I know I'm all over the place, but I'm actually from Montana, and this girl, she was asking me about these drinks, and like, I couldn't understand her. We're in a bar, I can't even hear her. I don't really even want to talk to her that much. And well, she was nice, but so she asked me if I knew about this one drink, and I don't know what the heck she was saying. So just to kind of mess with her a little bit, I was like, well, have you ever heard of a Raztastic, Razracious, Razzmatazz, Raspberry Lemon Mate? And she was like, what? And she kind of took me a little seriously, and I was like, no, really. I was like, have you heard of a Raztastic, Razracious, Razzmatazz, Raspberry Lemon Mate? And she was like, no, I've never heard of that. And I was like, oh, poor girl. I know, I'm from California. I'm sorry, we're a little crazy here. Not that they're not in Montana, believe me. I'm from the reservation, the Native American reservation, and they're crazy. They're like out there. No, in a good way. Like in a wild, like, tribal, wild, going crazy kind of way. So yes, I'm part Native American, in case you didn't know that. Another part about me is that how I know Queen Anne, that's the show you're watching, FYI. I know Queen Anne because we were coaching this program together where people take on like community projects. And one of the things that happened to me afterwards, after the program is, during the program we're so enthralled, we're like so in life, we're always setting goals and new possibilities and all that other stuff. So when I'm not in that zone, like the thing for me, how some smokers, they're kind of like, they're fiend, right? You see smokers outside of clubs and things like that, and they're fiending for a cigarette. I'm the opposite. I'm like one of those people, when things ain't going good for me, I'm like fiending for a possibility or a goal, like someone to like inspire me or something. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need something to really inspire me right now. It's totally different, which is actually a good thing about coaching that program with Queen Anne. Hold on, let me pull a Sarah Palin real quick. Check my notes. I don't know if you guys watch TV. I know you're watching this show right now, but one thing I've noticed about, I love like Discovery Channel, Animal Planet, things like that, because I love animals. And one thing I kind of noticed that's different about today and like today's animal shows is they're getting a little like reality television-ish, like I just wanted to watch a good like ant show where they're like, walking around, whatever. But now they have to like spruce it up, and they talk about the animal wars, and like ants are like running rampant all over the place, and they have like these guys like with swords like slicing at each other, and they have the empress, and she's supposed to be the queen, and she's all mysterious. And I'm like, what happened to the good old days? You know what I mean? I watch Discovery Channel because I want to see like a bear pooping in the woods or lions humping each other. I don't need all that commentary, actually. You know what I mean? But now they have to add all this extra stuff. And they have shows about like bears fighting tigers, and I'm like, I don't need all that. I just need to see the lions humping each other. That's what I'm looking for, okay? I don't know. Recently, actually, I'm from Montana, and I went there because unfortunately my grandma passed away. Rest in peace, rest her soul. And my grandfather is so awesome. He ended up, sharing a story with me, and I actually wanted to share it with you guys. And it's about the Mormon religion. And I'm not familiar with that, but he's very wise. He knows a lot of good stuff. So he was sharing with me about it, and he was telling me about some of the history. And I don't know if you guys know, but the Mormon religion, I guess, came from America, right? So he told me about when the Mormons first came to America, they, a lot of them died because they went to war, and, they were fighting. And mostly all the men went to war. And what happened is that there was all these women left over, and they didn't have a lot of men. So a lot of times people would hear them, out in the hills, and the women would be yelling, more men, more men. And then you would hear someone in the background saying, and bring them young. And that's how, I guess, I mean, I trust my grandpa with a lot of things, so maybe that is definitely possible. They need a lot more men, so okay, and I relate to that, It's kind of like my life sometimes. Amen, okay. So yeah, and one of the great things about my grandmother is I remember when one of my last conversations, so I'm sure, a lot of you probably have lost a grandparent, and you remember some of the last words that they told you. And when the last conversation I had with my grandma went a little bit like this. I was like, hey, Grandma, how are you? She's like, oh, hi, I'm good. And, I told her about what's going on in my life, and she's like, oh, do you have a girlfriend now? And I'm like, Mom, I was like, Grandma, no, I'm gay. And she's like, well, you never know. I was like, she's like, people change. I was like, Grandma, people don't change. Actually, with me, that's something that can't change. She's like, well, you never know. I don't know. And I was like, no. But I love my grandma, that's water under the bridge, so it's okay with me. So the other thing is, I don't know if you guys have watched Britney Spears recently. I know she's on like reality television shows, and she's really, really big right now. But unfortunately, I probably can't finish this story right now, but I'll leave you on a cliffhanger. Just think about her new song and about her new lyrics, okay? Think Baby Baby, and then think about her sounding British now. So I'll leave you with that kind of cliffhanger.
So, hi. My name is Queen Anne Kenna, and this is Queen Anne and Friends, Peninsula View. And Timothy is my guest. He has a new take on comedy, and I'm interested in whatever, if as long as it's something that's going to boast, forward something. And Timothy's idea is that comedy doesn't have to be cynical. It can be happy, and most of the things that people laugh at nowadays are putting other people down, making fun of other people in some way, and he has a whole new take on it, which I'm happy about that. So Timothy, thank you. I mean, some of it was kind of like, okay, I'm down with it,
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, I'm going to step outside of my comfort zone. So thank you for that. That's very good. So what made you come up with this idea of comedy doesn't have to be cynical? What brought that on?
Actually, when I was a kid, me and two of my best friends, Dexter and Sarah, we would create these radio shows, like we would record each other, and we would just joke around. And we found we would just listen to them over and over again. And the parts that we usually would remember, like the really, really funny parts, weren't the parts about making fun of other people. It was usually just something random, crazy, making a crazy noise or something like that, or we would say something random and we didn't understand. There's things I said I wouldn't even remember that I said it, and I
But
didn't
you guys
understand.
were having fun together, laughing about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
No one had to be the loser,
Well, that's what I liked about what you were talking about, that no one had to be the bad guy. Nobody had to look like, dumb and stupid, taken advantage of, being harassed or being made fun of, because most of the jokes, they're like that, right? But I noticed that you were talking mostly kind of like an autobiography kind of deal. I mean, you're talking about yourself and different experiences you had when you were growing up, and the one with your grandmother and and your grandpa having the conversation. Did that really happen, and or did you just make up the joke about that?
No, he really did.
It did happen?
He wanted me to share that joke. So.
Well, I hope we don't get any letters from the Mormon community.
No. I hope it was tasteful. It was obviously not reality. That's
but somebody may say something. So don't write the station. You can write me. I don't care. You can write me. So it'll be okay.
I don't really know much about that. So, yeah.
But that was interesting. And plus, I like the fact that you're committed to bringing joy and freedom into the world by talking about yourself and making, this is what you've experienced, this is what your thoughts are. So when did you decide that you want to make a nightclub act out of it? I mean, become a performer.
I've always wanted to do comedy. Ever since I was a kid. Me and my friends would think about being on shows like Mad TV, which was on when I was younger, and Saturday Night Live. So I always wanted to do something like that. I never really saw myself doing stand-up comedy until a couple years ago, doing more public speaking and things like that, and getting trained in how to talk in public.
I think it takes courage to get up and talk like that. I mean, just talk and be funny, because it's hard to be funny. How do you know if people are going to really think of you, like they're going to laugh? What do you do when people don't laugh? How does that feel when you're up there trying to be funny, it's a joke you made up, and it's funny to you and nobody laughs?
You have to find a way to relate. So usually I come up with a lot of different jokes, and sometimes I'll just throw things in if I think that the audience will relate. Usually what I find, and even just today, I was like, okay, I know I have some things prepared, but when it comes down to it, I kind of have to, I gauge, where the audience is at. And see,
you have a sensitivity about what people are, how people are, speakers can gauge the room in terms of what's interesting and what's not.
Yeah, if people can relate.
So now, I didn't know until tonight that you had been a nightclub performer before, that you've done this before.
Yeah.
So where did you do it? Was it here in San Jose?
Yeah, I've performed at Brick's nightclub, which is a gay bar.
Here in San Jose?
In downtown San Jose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Probably never been. And I've also performed at Rooster T. Feathers, which is a comedy club in Mountain View. I performed at Tommy T's in Pleasanton. You might have heard of that.
It seems like I've heard of Tommy T's. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have heard of that. I did my own charity event where it was for the SF AIDS Foundation, and I hosted it, and
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I had other comedians and I performed as well.
Did you
So
make money?
we
Is
did
this
make
the
money,
same?
yeah, for the SF
Okay.
AIDS Foundation. We raised a couple $100. So it was
Okay.
my first event ever, like charity event. Doing
Now,
something
do you
like
plan
that.
to do that one like that again?
I would like to. I mean, if I would like to become more and more famous, which I think is probably going to happen. The more people that I meet, I'll probably network and expand. So that's part of the reason why I'm okay, getting willing to get beyond my fear of performing is because there's a bigger difference that I can make. And you see a lot of comedians
I know, it
do
must be
that.
hard. I look at comedians sometimes, I said, how do they do that? To stand up and, you know, just be funny, and sometimes it's not funny, and I'm thinking, like, how do they feel? You know, they're talking so bad about somebody. I'm like, what are they thinking? You know, but I know I'm a particular way, but they have to figure out how most of the audience is. You know, because it probably doesn't matter about one person, but they gotta be able to see how the general audience of whatever they're talking about is
Yeah.
gonna be. So that must be really hard.
I have to prepare. Like, I've spent a lot of time online watching videos,
Okay.
kind of finding like what's relevant. And I watch a lot of TYT news. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but they talk about a lot of relevant.
No, I haven't. If it's, I'm
No.
not electronic inclined, I'm not,
Not yet.
not yet, but I'm trying to be. I'm trying. I'm
Yeah,
trying.
you're getting better. You
Yeah.
have an iPhone, so right?
I have an iPhone that I'm trying to learn how to use, okay?
Yeah. Which you do.
I
right?
have learned how to, what did I learn in that class? Like how to erase
Oh.
messages.
Oh.
Yeah, I did.
I want to say online dating, right? No.
Well, I can't do that. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't do that one, but I did try to do that. But,
It takes
But it was
time.
interesting when you were talking about dating with gays.
Yes.
It's the same issues that women have. I mean, you know what I mean? I'm still kind of, I know it's kind of sort of, what do they call it?
Homophobic?
Homophobic. I know I have to admit to that at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But I was noticing how the same it is.
Uh-huh.
That's what I noticed when you were talking about that. I had that same issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people aren't comfortable with homosexuality, maybe because they're not around it or whatever. And a lot of times when they get into that topic, there's things that people aren't comfortable with.
And they don't
Yeah.
even know sometimes they're not comfortable until it comes up.
Yeah.
But they got to deal with it. I'm like, I want to deal with everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, given the kind of life, that I'm interested in transformation and technology and all that, that's part of it, having a full life of everything and not that suppressing any part of it. So,
Yeah.
But I just think that it's awesome of you to bring that to people in a funny way and make
Yeah.
it light and easy to listen to, and that's very brave. So I'm really proud of you for doing that.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
now, one of the things, oh God, this time is going by so fast. Dun, 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 dun. Let me see now. Let me see.
Oh.
So Timothy is going to get up and do another sting. Not right now, but we have a couple of more minutes before he does that, and he's going to do the comedy routine off the air, that's the way we set it up because we thought that would be the best way for you to see the extent of his comedy. So in the meantime, I'm going to ask this question: is what do you want? Where do you want this to lead to? What is the next step in terms of seeing you on J-Lo or some
Jay
of the,
Leno.
Jay Leno,
Yeah,
okay,
mhm.
J-Lo.
J-Lo.
That's
Jennifer.
Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah. Or her if she has her own show.
Yeah.
I'll be her dancer.
Okay, Jay Leno. What's that other guy's name?
David Letterman.
David Letterman.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could see you there, right? And
I
say,
could.
I know him. I him. I
Yeah.
interviewed him. Yeah. So I know. I'll ask you this when you get back up because we'll have 2 minutes afterwards. But right now, we're going to go back because you got another 5 minutes to do. So you have 5 minutes of material that you can do. You say
I think
yes.
So.
If you can, we'll just go back.
Okay.
So while Tim is going to get up and go back over there, I don't know where camera I'm working on.
On the
He's
right-
going to go back and
the
do
right
the
camera?
same routine, do more of the routine, and then I'm going to ask him a couple more questions at the end of the program. So you'll get to see him talk about, the last 5 minutes. It's crazy here, I'm telling you. But he's ready to, do some more comedy. And the idea is that it doesn't have to be nasty. It doesn't have to be talking about people or race or generation or anything like that. It could be actually be funny. So I'm really happy to have him on my show, and it's enlightening for me also. So I'm learning a lot just from being a guest on my show, on my own talk show. So, are you ready?
You're a guest on your own talk show today, yes.
I'm a guest on my own talk show. I feel like a guest, okay?
Yeah, sorry, I know.
Okay.
I'm a comedian. I have to goof things up, so I walked behind her on camera. So I left you off with Brittany, right? And I'm not going to badmouth her because she's awesome, right? Right? Gays?
Yes.
Gays? No. So, but, you know, Brittany, I've noticed that she's had a huge evolution over the years. You know, over the years, I know, remember when she had Hit Me Baby One More Time and she was like, oh, baby, baby. Right? That's probably stuck in your head if you ever heard that song. And then like 9, 10 years later, she's all, oh, baby, baby, oh, baby, baby. I was like, oh, great. Upgrading the lyrics. And, you know, and recently she's really gone out there, right? She's really expanded. She's gone British. Have you heard her new song lyrics? She's all, when I walk to the club, whatever she said. She's talking British, but I ain't gonna hate because I do that all the time too. I always try to talk British. You know what I'm saying? Like whenever I'm talking about something, all of a sudden, when something's really small, all of a sudden it's like I get British on. I just talk about it's very small, very little, very compact, kind of like Queen Anne. She's very small. She's very compact, very little. She's very little. Very, very not so, you know, large, but she's very small. No, not the one or the other. Very small. The other thing is, you know, I feel like I'm channeling Lara Croft. If any of you seen Tomb Raider, all of a sudden I'm like walking through the tombs, discovering something ancient, very ancient and authentic. So, you know, I do it too. I'm not trying to hate, and I'm not, actually I think I'm part British. But I don't think that's what it is. It's just like you hear it all because Brittany's doing it. I think that's why I'm doing it, and I love her. So yeah, that's always fun. And another thing, what else is fun is I have a friend who should be a comedian, but he's not a comedian yet because he just hasn't gotten on stage yet. But his name is Paul, and I just have to share this story because he's hilarious. And you know, we used to live together, kind of. He used to sleep in my closet. No, I'm just kidding. No. Well, we used to live together, and what was really great about Paul is that he would, you know, wake me up in the morning, you know, kind of like an alarm clock. But this is how he would do it. I'd be sleeping, and then next thing I know, like I would really seriously be sleeping, and I would hear, Timothy, Timothy, Timothy. I'm like, oh my gosh. I felt like a ghost. And if that didn't wake me up, the best thing that he would do, you know, he'd kind of serenade me. I'd be asleep, and I would hear him out in the living room, and all of a sudden I'd hear, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'd pretend to still be asleep, and then he would come back out. He'd be like, and I'm like, oh gosh. No, it was great. Isn't that a great way to wake up in the morning, Whitney Houston? I loved it. So that was always fun. And he would joke around, and we would joke around and always have fun. And he was actually a huge inspiration for a lot of my comedy. I'm trying to think what else to talk about. I already talked about Grindr, talked about work, talked about Tivana. Oh, okay. What I think is funny, because I like to make other people laugh, but what I think is funny, there's a lot of things that I think are funny. You know, I think that, you know, children laughing is funny. I think that, you know, occasionally, you know, hearing somebody fart out in public who didn't mean to, that's always funny, right? And, you know, some other things I think are funny are like Fox News talking about how yoga is religious. I think that's funny too. Or, you know, how